everyone that's watching us. We're talking today about navigating teen anxiety and stress.
Right.
So I want to start out with just telling a little bit about yourself.
I'm actually a consultant and coach, and I work specifically in helping people develop their emotional intelligence. And
So important.
yeah, and I've worked in the corporate environment for about 20 plus years and have really worked with leaders and helping them develop their EQ so they could be more effective as leaders. And then recently, probably within the last 3+ years, I started working with teenagers and college students and really helping them to develop their EQ.
Moms that are listening may not know exactly what emotional intelligence means.
Sure. So with emotional intelligence, what's happening is you are considering both your thoughts and your feelings. So it's this idea, a lot of times people hear emotional intelligence and they think it's all about emotions. And really it's not about just emotions or just your thinking. It's the idea that emotional intelligence blends both your thoughts and your emotions together so that you can make the best choice or the best decision and have meaningful interactions. So often we grow up not knowing what to do with our emotions. We're told to ignore them, don't pay attention to them. We're told not to feel certain ways. We're taught that certain emotions are good and others are bad. And so in the end,
sensitive.
Yeah, and exactly. And so in the end, we learn to stuff our feelings and we try to ignore them. We're created to be emotional human beings. And so we're ignoring a big part of who we are. So with emotional intelligence, we learn to recognize our feelings, recognize how we're feeling in a moment, and then we learn to understand what that feeling is telling us. There was a recent study that showed that actually teens are reporting out at feeling higher levels of stress compared to adults. 74% of teens are reporting symptoms such as either feeling irritable or angry, nervous or anxious, the desire to cry, overwhelmed, sadness or depression, and fatigue and tired. So those are like all these symptoms of stress. And when they were asked, 74% of the teens reported having more than one of these symptoms.
Wow.
So, so I think it becomes one of these things like we might see this in our kids, and maybe the kids know how to express it, but maybe they don't. And so we don't know how to necessarily interpret, like when we see them being irritable or, being,
we think that they're being disrespectful, and they may be, right? But
that's how it's coming out. But and it's kind of like the onion again. It might be coming out that way, but when you kind of peel it back, it's like, okay, what's really at the core of this? These kids that were learning this at a young age were applying the things that they were learning cognitively in school, but then they were also blending that with how they were feeling about things. The result of this greater emotional intelligence is that, they have strategies to navigate some of the more difficult feelings that come about. So they had less stress, less anxiety, less depression. And then overall, with a lot of these different things, they're experiencing greater overall life satisfaction. As parents, I think it's our natural kind of response to try to help them, try to fix it, try to take care of it, try to eliminate it. And, oftentimes by inserting ourselves into it, it doesn't always go well.
We don't say, "Oh, Mom, I know exactly. Yeah, sure. Thank you for that
You're
advice."
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes, what I find too is, by trying to help, we often, can make it worse.
Okay, let's stop there. So What are some other things that we do that aren't helpful? We try to fix it and give advice, which makes it worse. Usually, I know for me, when I try to do that with my kids, they usually get more stressed out.
Yeah.
They are defensive. They clam up, don't want to talk about it, or they get angry. We'll talk about what we can do instead.
Well, and this sounds crazy, but I think sometimes we try to encourage our teens through it. And encouragement, I think, is good, but you got to be really careful, because I think that sometimes when you encourage, you're also setting an expectation.
Yes.
So my story before was, I have a student that I'm working with. He was a college student and, just struggling. And when he was talking about it with his parents, his parents' response was like, you know what? I know you're going to do this. You're going to do great. And, you'll always come out on top. And like, I have full confidence in your abilities and like, all this kind of rah-rah stuff, which we think like, okay, we got to give them some like, good thoughts to think about and show that we believe in them. And yes, we do, but to a point, because now this poor kid was like, now I'm even more stressed because now I have to live up to this, because now if I don't make it, now, I now clearly know what they're expecting. And now what if I can't do it again this time? So I think the thing is that what's most important, and I think like with this particular guy, what I think he was looking for was just somebody to listen and to even affirm what he was feeling. So he didn't want advice, and he didn't want the, rah-rah speech. He didn't want a speech. He did also make that clear, like when we talked about it, like he didn't want a lecture or anything like that. He just was looking for someone to listen to him and affirm him. And that's it.
Yeah. It's so interesting that we think that we're giving our kids something really good by encouraging them and telling them that they can do it and we believe in them, but that we actually end up causing them to feel more stress, because then they have this added stress that they could let us down.
Right.
And that we would be disappointed or whatever it is.
Right.
And you think about how much we just want to be listened to. I mean, when we've got something and we just need to vent, we don't want anybody to fix it. It's so hard with our kids. Like I could listen to you and be objective and go, oh yeah, man, that is hard.
Right.
But it's hard with our kids. We don't want them to be stressed. We don't want them to be in pain or hurting. We want to make it better.
I actually had a firsthand experience of this where the tables were turned, and I was struggling with something, and I shared it with a friend and kind of told her what was going on. And her response back to me was, she told me all the things I needed to do. You should do this, you should do that, you should do this, and you got this, like you can do this. And I was like, when I walked away, I was like, oh, like
I didn't feel good.
That did not help me at all. And in fact, what it did was it shut me down. Like I thought to myself, I don't think I'm going to go to her again when I want to process something or talk about something. And so, if you want your kids talking to you, listen.
Yes.
Listen, and just try to reflect what they're saying. And I would say the other thing too is I think as parents, we listen to the facts, like, what's going on, who's involved, what are your options, this and this. But listen for the feelings. Listen to what they might be experiencing and how those feelings may be something that they're not even aware of, and try to mirror those back or reflect those back with them.
We try to solve their problems.
Right. Exactly. And I think that the thing is, like, when you think about stress with the kids, the other thing that comes out is in these stress studies is that not only are these kids experiencing more stress than they ever have, they don't feel confident in their ability to navigate stress. So they don't know what to do. And, part of that is helping students know that, you can navigate through stress by either, looking at the emotions that are associated with stress or trying to do some problem solving, but giving them some techniques and strategies of when you're feeling the stress, looking at what is going on in the situation and and where can you, like what's temporary, what needs to change, what is something that you're going to just navigate through, but helping them realize that stress is never going to go away. You're never going to have a stress-free life. We're all going to experience some form of stress. So instead of trying to completely escape it, how do you learn how to successfully navigate through it?
So I love that story about a friend, because I think every mom that's listening is going to understand what that feels like.
Yeah.
It makes you feel worse.
Yeah.
It dismisses your feelings, and then it's almost like, gosh, what's wrong with you? Just suck it up and
Exactly.
go.
Yeah.
But to be able to get out our emotions, that's what actually helps us to shift. Like if you just had have normalized it and been able to listen, you would have left feeling a lot lighter.
I might have learned something about myself in that process. If she would have just listened and reflected back, she might have actually made me more aware of what's going on inside instead of trying to fix my problem.
I actually had a friend that I was sitting with having coffee this morning, and she asked me what I thought she should do. And I thought to myself, oh, I know what she should do. But I said, well, what do you think you should do? What do you, and I kind of turned the question around, and she could process out loud. And it was like amazing, because what I thought she should do, really, I was off. I was assuming. And I think we often do that with our kids.
Absolutely.
But she, right in front of me, she just processed the whole thing and got her answer just from being able to talk it out loud, which is really what our kids need.
Yeah.
Rather than, us trying to give them the answers or trying to make them feel better. So you were saying to reflect, and I don't know that moms always know what reflective listening means. So can you give us an example?
Yeah. So when your teen comes to you or maybe they don't even come to you and tell you they're stressed out, you just notice, like they're short with, their siblings, they kick the dog, they throw their books all over the place, and, you just see something and it might be just, so like, hey, what's going on? And then if they were to ask you a question or answer that question and share with you, instead of then coming back with a reply, you could then just kind of paraphrase what you're hearing. So it sounds like you had a really frustrating day today, or, wow, that is frustrating. Like
validating their emotions.
Yeah. Do you want to talk more about it?
Instead of wanting to make them feel better, wow, that sounds really frustrating.
Right. Or instead of trying to give them a life lesson, like, well, I told you if you would have studied instead of watching TV, you maybe wouldn't feel so frustrated right now.
Oh man, that is so backfires.
Yep.
That never works. No. They never say, you're right. I should have studied. And they just get defensive.
Yeah. And again, they shut down.
Exactly. So. Yes. So what I hear you saying is, first, we want to help them to be able to express their emotions. Because when they can say how they're feeling and be honest about that and just have us listen, that's going to help their anxiety and their stress. Just to even be able to say what's so without us trying to slap a Band-Aid on it or make them feel better. Just allow them to talk about it. Because you and I know when we can just tell honestly how we're doing and have somebody listen, you could have left that coffee feeling a lot better, and your anxiety and stress level would have gone down.
I think it starts with learning how to navigate our own stress. So for the moms that are in your group, I mean, that's a great step, like to learn how to, like when you're experiencing your own stress, having a place to go where it's safe and, you're being heard, that you can share some of that and you can pick up on some of the strategies and how to navigate it. Because what happens is that, kids are watching us all day long since they were tiny little kids, right? And they're picking up our habits. And so if they see that we can't navigate our own stress, that they're learning from us, and
Yes.
and so that's what is going with it. So it's hard, I think, for parents to help kids learn how to do it when maybe as parents we don't always know how to do it either. And so maybe the first thing to do is look at, like, how, asking yourself that question, like, how do I navigate stress? What am I doing? And what's working with that? And maybe, what's not, and where can I get some help?
I think that's excellent. I know we're almost at time, but that's what I really work on with moms in my groups and in coaching, because that is where it starts. We want to fix our kids. I find that's very common, rather than looking at ourselves, because we are modeling for them. That I know with my oldest, it's 27 now, before I learned all these things and became a coach. And that's actually why I do what I do. When she would feel anxious or angry, I was trying to shut her down because I was so uncomfortable with my own feelings. And I didn't know how to navigate that. So what I would do is, if she was feeling stressed, I'd blow it out of proportion. I would catastrophize because I was stuffing it. And then that would make her anxiety worse. So we really need to get in touch with our emotions and our feelings and learn how to navigate that, so that we can give that to our kids.
Right. And I think if you ask every mom, if you went around a circle, everyone would tell you kind of a different way that they deal with it. And my upbringing was more of, I don't know how else to explain it other than to say, like, if something was going on, like, my dad would always jump in, and he always had a way or a connection or something to help us out of a jam. And so I learned to just depend on him to fix things. And so with my own kids, when they would come home and say, like, they had something happen at school, like, I'm like picking up the phone, making a phone call, that doesn't work though, because then they don't learn how to do it themselves. So we have to first look inward and say, like, what are we doing to navigate our own stress, get better at that, so then we can help our kids do it. And, thankfully there's places, like, you that can offer that to parents. And then, like, I work with students that help students learn how to navigate stress. And so it's asking for help, and just, get the help that you need.
Yeah. And it's a process. We're always learning, right? So it's definitely a process.
Absolutely.
So, and it's never too late.
No.
Well, thank you. So tell them where to find you. I so appreciate it. And there's so much more we could talk about, but we gave them, hopefully you moms got a little nugget that you can walk away with and try, with your kids, another little tool in the toolbox. So tell them how to find you and I know you do Skype or Zoom calls with kids too, that are away at college.
Right.
And you're also training people in the corporate world and working with people one-on-one. So,
yeah. So my website is Equip Studios. So it's equipstudios.net. And, like you said, I have an office in Lake Zurich, but then I also talk with people, like you said, on the phone, Skype, whatever it is. So I can, basically meet anybody anywhere. But, and even if you just want to have a consultation call just to learn a little bit more about, or to talk about what's going on with your kids, I'd be happy to talk with you about that as well. So, but definitely you can contact me through that website. You'll see a way to email me or call me.
Great. All right. Thank you, Kelli. Thank you so much. And have a good day. Stay warm. We're like freezing here in Chicago.
Oh my gosh.
It's snowing here. So anyway, but I so appreciate it. And I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
All right. Bye. Thanks.
You can contact Kelli Schulte at equipstudios.net to find out more about Moms of Tweens and Teens, our communities, parent coaching, and how you can connect with other moms. Visit us at momsoftweensandteens.com or email me at Cheryl@momsoftweensandteens.com. We're here to support you.